All right, let's dive deep into some fascinating UAP stuff.
Sounds good to me.
We've got an interview with Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who just held a hearing on UAPs, and a Q&A with Dr. John Kosloski, the new director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. AARO.
Exactly.
I always have to think about that for a second.
I know, right? It's a mouthful.
It is.
So we're basically looking at the latest from the government side on UAPs.
That's right. Some really interesting developments.
And if some of those names don't ring a bell right away, we'll explain who's who and why their words carry weight.
Absolutely. We'll unpack it all.
Congresswoman Mace, right off the bat, makes a bold statement. She says she believes the American people have been straight up lied to about UAPs and related government programs.
Wow. That's a pretty serious accusation.
It is.
Especially coming from someone in her position.
Which is?
Well, Congresswoman Mace is the chairwoman of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee.
That basically gives her a lot of power to investigate these kinds of claims.
So she's not just throwing this out there.
No, not at all.
It sounds like she's been digging deep.
From what we've seen. Definitely.
Because she got her hands on some declassified government documents.
Right.
And these documents, they detail potential compensation programs.
Interesting.
For people injured at crash sites. So they actually mention...
Wait, they specifically mention crash sites?
Crash retrieval programs, yeah.
That's huge.
Right.
It's one thing to say, okay, we don't know what these things are.
Right.
But to admit there are programs to retrieve them.
And study them.
Programs they've always denied.
That's a game changer.
It really is.
And get this. She claims she learned about these programs by reading between the lines of these documents.
Between the lines.
Yeah.
So, like, it wasn't explicitly stated?
It was implied.
Okay, how much is really hidden like that, you think?
Right. Makes you wonder.
Well, that's where compartmentalization comes in.
Okay.
In government intelligence, information is often very restricted.
Like need-to-know basis.
Exactly, need to know.
Okay.
So you get these silos, people working without the full picture.
Meaning?
Lack of transparency, conflicting accounts, even high-ranking officials.
Might be in the dark.
Could be, yeah.
So even with top-level clearance, we might not know the half of it.
It's definitely possible.
No wonder Congresswoman Mace is calling for better whistleblower protection.
Makes sense.
She thinks way more people would come forward.
If they felt safe?
Exactly, if they weren't afraid of the repercussions.
It's a tricky situation, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, how do you protect whistleblowers?
While also safeguarding classified information.
And national security.
It's a tough balancing act.
All right, let's shift gears for a sec and talk about Dr. Kosloski.
Right, the new head of AARO.
Now, his background is pretty intriguing. He comes from the NSA.
Wow, the National Security Agency.
Yep, and from what we've gathered, he's all about bringing scientific rigor to these UAP investigations.
So a very data-driven approach.
Exactly. Evidence-based.
I can see how his background might influence that.
Right.
Coming from the NSA, he's probably got a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
And as scientists, we need that skepticism.
Of course.
But UAPs, they might be completely outside our current understanding.
Right.
So how do you balance that skepticism with the truly unknown?
That's a good question.
The fine line to walk.
And speaking of that, he revealed that AARO has resolved hundreds of cases.
Oh, wow.
But they still have over 900 in active archive.
Why?
Because they lack the data.
Not enough to go on.
Not enough to analyze them properly.
That makes sense. You can't just jump to conclusions.
Right. You need solid evidence.
But with UAPs, evidence is often sketchy.
Eyewitness accounts, blurry photos, radar blips.
It's hard to build a solid case on that.
I know, but despite that lack of data, Dr. Kosloski says that while AARO hasn't found verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial activity, a small percentage of the reports they have investigated show potentially anomalous characteristics.
Potentially anomalous?
That need further study.
Interesting.
So he's not ruling anything out.
It sounds like he's choosing his words very carefully.
He is. He's not jumping to conclusions.
But he's also not dismissing the possibility of something truly unusual.
Right.
I mean, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence.
Exactly.
It just means we need to keep looking.
And he even talked about the difficulty of defining breakthrough technologies.
I can see how that would be tricky.
Like, how do we know if something is truly beyond our current understanding?
Right. What seems impossible today might be commonplace tomorrow.
It's a question that plagues any field pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, whether it's physics or biology or, in this case, UAPs.
Exact.
It's about recognizing the limits of our knowledge.
What I found encouraging was his willingness to collaborate.
Oh, that's good to hear.
He wants to work with universities, even involve the public.
Wow, that's a big step.
Right. It makes me wonder if this is a shift towards more transparency.
Could be.
What do you think about public involvement, though?
It's a double-edged sword, to be honest.
How so?
On one hand, you get fresh perspectives, new ideas, maybe even resources.
Huh?
You also increase the risk of misinformation spreading.
Yeah, with a topic like UAPs.
Which already has so much speculation.
That's a valid concern.
It is.
So AARO needs to balance transparency with accuracy.
Absolutely. They need to make sure the information is reliable.
Speaking of interesting tidbits, Dr. Kosloski drew a parallel.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Between historical UAP sightings.
Like what?
Remember how people thought U-2 spy planes were UFOs?
Oh yeah, back in the day.
And now we have things like Starlink satellites.
Which can look pretty strange if you don't know what they are.
Exactly. So just because something looks unusual...
doesn't mean it's aliens.
Right.
But it also reminds us that technology is always evolving.
What seems impossible today
might be normal tomorrow.
So we need to be cautious, but open-minded.
I agree. Strike that balance.
Don't dismiss the possibility of truly breakthrough technologies.
We need to consider all the angles.
So let me get this straight.
Go ahead.
We've got government officials acknowledging unexplained phenomena.
Yes.
Hints of crash retrieval programs.
Right.
Push for whistleblower protection. Call for more transparency.
It's a lot to take in.
What does it all mean?
It feels like a turning point in the whole UAP conversation.
How so?
The public wants answers, and the government is trying to figure out
how to be more open
while still protecting secrets.
And where do you think this is all headed?
It's hard to say for sure, but things are moving fast.
More people coming forward, more info declassified.
Scientists getting more involved.
Exciting, but also a bit overwhelming.
It is, for sure.
So what's the most important thing for our listeners to remember?
Be critical, but open-minded.
Don't accept everything at face value.
But don't dismiss unconventional possibilities either.
Sound advice.
It's about staying curious.
This whole topic feels so significant, like it could change everything.
It could?
It really gets you thinking about our place in the universe.
It does, and the answers might be stranger than we imagine.
Speaking of strange and unimaginable, there's one more thing from Congresswoman Mace's interview.
Oh.
Before we move on.
Okay, I'm listening.
She actually named specific contractors.
Oh, contractors.
Yeah, she believes they're involved in these UAP programs.
That's interesting.
I know, right?
She named companies outright.
She did, in an official setting.
That suggests a certain level of confidence.
Doesn't it?
It does. She must believe her sources.
So now we have to wonder how deep private companies are involved.
And what are the implications of that?
Right. Is this a whole new dimension to the UAP issue?
That could be a whole can of worms.
But maybe for now, we should focus on the bigger picture.
Agreed. The broader context.
We're talking about potential advancements that could revolutionize everything.
Physics, technology, maybe even what it means to be human.
It's mind-blowing, but also a bit scary.
It is. The unknown can be unsettling.
With so much speculation out there.
It's easy to get lost.
We need to keep coming back to the fundamental questions.
Like what?
What is the nature of these UAPs?
Right.
What are the implications for humanity?
And maybe the biggest question of all.
Are we alone?
It's a question we've been asking for centuries.
And it seems like we might finally be getting closer to some answers.
Or at least closer to asking the right questions.
It's a journey of discovery, and I'm hooked.
I hear ya.
We've only scratched the surface of this UAP iceberg.
There's so much more to explore.
And we're gonna do just that.
Excellent.
We'll be back in just a moment to delve deeper into the mystery of UAPs with some more fascinating details from our sources.
Looking forward to it.
So, before we jump into the next thing, this whole idea of private companies being involved in UAP research, what do you make of that?
It's definitely not the usual story we hear, is it?
Not at all.
We usually think of this as like government stuff, you know.
Yeah, super secret.
Hidden in some bunker.
Exactly.
But what Congresswoman Mace is saying, it suggests something different.
It does, and it's pretty wild.
What specifically?
She said these contractors, they might even have access to...
What?
Materials from those crash retrieval programs.
Whoa, hold on, really?
Yeah, the ones we talked about earlier.
That raises a whole bunch of questions.
Like what?
Well, if that's true, who's actually in control of this technology?
Right, are there safeguards?
Are they using it responsibly?
It's a bit of a Pandora's box.
It is. Once that knowledge is out there.
You can't put it back in.
Exactly.
And what about national security, right?
If private companies are in the game.
Does it change the whole dynamic?
Competition between countries.
Maybe even a UAP arms race.
Who knows? That's something Congress needs to look into.
For sure.
We need to be cautious, though.
Right? We don't have all the facts yet.
These are still just allegations.
Not.
We shouldn't jump to conclusions.
I agree. But still, even the possibility.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
It's important to remember.
This isn't just a recent thing.
These phenomena have been around for a long time.
Centuries, even.
Stories of strange lights, unusual objects.
Encounters with things that defy explanation.
And these accounts, they come from everywhere.
All over the world.
Different cultures, different time periods.
It seems UAPs are woven into human history.
That raises some interesting questions.
Like what?
Are these phenomena connected across time and space?
Have we been interacting with them for centuries?
Without realizing it.
That's a pretty mind-blowing thought.
It is. It adds another layer to the mystery.
And it shows the limits of our understanding of history.
We think in a linear way.
What if there are other forces at play?
Other realities intersecting with ours.
Now you're getting deep.
I can't help it. UAPs make you question everything.
About existence, consciousness.
The nature of reality.
Got time for one more big thought.
Sure, let's hear it.
Okay, so if UAPs are multidimensional,
as some people suggest,
what does that mean for how we understand time and space?
The fabric of reality.
Whoa, that's a lot to unpack.
Let that simmer for a bit.
We'll pick it up in the next segment.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, that last question about UAPs in multiple dimensions, it's still swirling around in my head.
It's a big one, for sure. It really makes you rethink everything we think we know about reality, you know?
Totally. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. It's hard to keep track sometimes. Government officials acknowledging the existence of unexplained phenomena, potential crash retrieval programs, the push for whistleblower protection, the need for greater transparency, private companies being involved. It's a lot.
It is a lot to take in. But I think the most important thing to remember is that all this points to, something truly extraordinary happening, right?
You're right. We have those credible witnesses, you know, like military pilots, government officials. They describe these encounters with objects that, they seem to defy our understanding of physics as we know it.
And then there are the hints of government programs dedicated to studying these things, maybe even recovering and analyzing materials from crash sites. It's like we're getting these little glimpses behind the curtain, but the full picture is still hidden.
It's like, imagine standing at the edge of this vast, uncharted territory. You're filled with wonder, but also maybe a little apprehension.
That's a great analogy. And as a society, we get to choose how we approach this new frontier, don't we? I mean, will we embrace the challenge with curiosity, with open minds, or will we shy away in fear and denial?
It's a big choice. So based on what we've talked about today, which way do you think we're leaning?
Well, I think there's a growing momentum, you know, like more and more people are leaning towards embracing the unknown. And I think that's driven by both public curiosity and the increasing involvement of, you know, scientists and researchers. There's a real hunger to get to the bottom of this.
And that makes this like such a fascinating time to be alive, doesn't it? We could be on the verge of discoveries that completely redefine our understanding of the universe, our place in it, everything.
Exactly. It's a journey of discovery.
Yeah.
But maybe even more importantly, it's a journey of self-discovery. It challenges us to confront not just the unknown out there, but also the unknowns within ourselves, you know, our biases, our assumptions, our limits.
That's deep, man. It really is a lot to wrap your head around. But you know what? I think that's a perfect place to end our deep dive for today. We've explored the evidence, the implications, the historical context. We even got a bit philosophical.
We did. I think we covered it all.
But before we go, do you have any final thoughts, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Just one. I want you all to imagine, just for a moment, that everything we've discussed today, everything, is true. That UAPs are real, that they represent technology beyond our comprehension, and that they have the potential to change the world as we know it.
Okay, I'm trying to picture that.
Now, ask yourself, what does that mean for you? How does this knowledge, this possibility, change your perspective on your life, on humanity, on our place in this vast universe?
Wow. Those are some powerful questions. I think I'm going to be thinking about those for a long, long time.
That's the point. It's not about having all the answers. It's about about being willing to ask the big questions, the difficult questions, and then grapple with the implications. Yeah. The UAP enigma isn't just a scientific mystery, It's a philosophical one. It's an existential one, even.
Well said. Thank you so much for taking us on this incredible deep dive. My mind is officially blown.
It was my pleasure. But the journey doesn't end here, folks. Keep digging, keep asking questions, and keep an open mind.
And until next time, keep looking up.